Hey y'all, welcome to the Spiritual Speakeasy where the bar is always open and all spirits are always served. Hi Jim, hi everybody joining us tonight. Tonight's guest is Ann Harris. She is a world-renowned violinist, maker of her own violins, amazing blues recording artist, starring in her own film, and she supports women in women's business and the women movement. And without any further time wasted, let's get her on.
Hello.
We were chatting backstage and Ann says, "We're on, right?" Oh no, this was all just conversation. Man, what an amazing person. I am so blessed. Thank you.
It's so mutual. Thank you so much for having me, Julie. And I don't know that introduction. I'm not sure who you were introducing. That was quite an introduction.
So for everybody listening tonight on the StreamYard and on the web pages, and Russell, my producer, will put on more links to Ann's bio as well as her music and her film so that you can listen to her music. But I saw Ann on Facebook and I was just like fucking blown away. I just was like, the music touched my soul. I had goosebumps. And then when she said, "Don't let the man put you down or get you down," I was just like, okay, I'm 62. I grew up in the 60s. I grew up in the 70s. And that was, that was my big thing. My dad was a Marine. I was always told, no, we don't go with that movement. I was the one putting the flowers and the guns and hugging the trees and doing those things.
Yeah.
So when you said that, that triggered this inner child in me that was like, and the timing was beautiful because I'm into yoga and I was studying Lakshmi and I was studying Durga and these huge feminine forces of abundance and power.
Yeah.
And then you came on my Facebook page and I'm like, well, shit, here she is.
That's such an honor. It's funny that little blip of an introduction that I did. This was a recording from earlier in the spring. I have a band called Halo Rider. It's with Marcus James, who's a singer-songwriter, guitar player based in California, and me on fiddle and voice. And I'm based here in Chicago, and our drummer lives in Denver. We're kind of all over the place, but we get together for intensive writing and shows. And that song, it's the latest single that we've released. It's a song called "Don't Let It Drag You Down," and it's Marcus wrote it really about that very thing. It's very literal. Times are exceedingly challenging. They always are challenging. Every time has its own sort of energy around it, but these are a particularly intense time, and I feel like there's a collective sense for sure of anticipation of something we've never experienced before. Like a big reveal is happening, and it's happening, every day in little bits, and there's big explosions here and there of change and movement, but it's like this energy overload. And I think that we are charged as humans and citizens of the earth to rise to the occasion with our most open, compassionate, heart-centered activism, and that's interesting. Activision is what I
Yes,
said.
I mean, that's
Activism
not
is
a
what I
Freudian
meant.
slip there. No.
Interesting. And so, long story short, I take that moment in the show to speak freely on this subject of coming together into community and not letting forces that would benefit from our division run the show. And they just happened to film a little bit of that and threw it up on their website that we played at a beautiful place just outside of Boston called the Fallout Shelter. And that little clip just took on a life of its own. And
So
it,
powerful.
it continues to, and it's so I'm just honored that I was able to channel those words in that moment and really speak what I deeply feel in my heart and what I hope my art does, on a level.
I think that's beautifully articulated because, I had never met you before. We've never talked. I mean, we've
Exactly. We just met.
and that moment moved me to the point of tears because to me, that is what the spiritual speakeasy is all about. I'm a metaphysical worker. I'm a nurse by trade. I take care of people, but my job now is metaphysical, and it's to bring people to an elevation. And I
Yes.
spend every day trying to help people that are lost because I love people who think that they're lost and they've hit rock bottom. I love helping them realize that they're beautiful and they're really right where they need to be to elevate because you're at that
Yeah.
moment. If you realize, then that's that moment of clarity that I can help bring you up. And you did something to me when I heard that moved me into a completely different direction between your
Wow.
musical notes and the vibration and your overall aura and frequency was so high
Oh,
in your message
thank
and
you.
combined with the whole feminine force because people are so scared right now of that and not realizing that honoring your divine feminine and reaching out because male and female have that as we
Exactly.
talked about just
Yeah.
like we have a masculine part and a female part
Yeah.
honoring the sides, both sides equally, the yin and the yang, to be perfect in the center
Yes.
and
Yes.
meeting each other in a mindful way, third eye in our mind.
Yes.
Because even if we can't see eye to eye as human beings in human bodies, we can still appreciate and love each other as human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the dumbing down and the oversimplification of who we are is a tempting easy fruit to pluck because it's like a quick sugar buzz or something instead
Yes.
of having a real meal, which would take time. It's like popping junk food in your mouth. um, the energy that flows through us is divine energy, which has neither a male or it's genderless.
Yes.
However, in human form, we do have expressions in very general and sometimes specific ways, depending on how it's manifesting through a person of
Mhm.
gender identities. But if we're to move forward, in my opinion, in a sustainable way as a collective on this planet, there's going to have to be an embracing of what you reference. We'll call it the divine feminine, and I don't mean women by gender
No.
specifically. And we were very clear on that, which I love.
Yes.
It's not about that. It's about expanding our full potential. If you're riding on two wheels on your car and you've never put the other two wheels on fully for their functioning, all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, that was so crazy. I was driving on two wheels and I thought it was normal to have the back
Absolutely.
end of the car sparking away on the highway.
But you haven't known difference. So to you, that's normal. Absolutely.
Yeah, and culture trains us and to be engendered and we're encultured in a very specific way. And what's hopefully happening is, there's little cracks and divides where light's coming through and shining light on different possibilities and different choices and on our potential, which I think we haven't begun to even scratch the surface of. I mean, I'm
Oh,
hoping
no.
that,
I hope we do soon. I
Yeah.
really hope we do soon because that potential is so beautiful
Yes.
and it's so inspiring. And people are embracing both the embodiment of masculine and feminine. For those out there that have never heard of this idea, is to me like, um it's being problem solving and being a go-getter and initiating things and being that activator of change, and also being nurturing and motherly and emotional at the same time. And you have to have that balance. You have to have the embodiment of both to be successful in today's
Absolutely, I
world.
agree. Yeah, and activism with compassion. Um,
Yes. And the compassion doesn't mean that you become the feelings of other people. It means
yeah,
you feel yourself, you stay within yourself, but you also try to understand and appreciate the fact that we've not walked in other people's shoes, so we do not understand what they've gone through.
absolutely, and that's certainly where empathy comes in, and empathy is another agent of magnetism. In
Yes.
other words, when you have empathy and compassion, you will draw to you situations and people that will help to exercise that muscle and grow it.
Yes.
And and when you grow that, it's gonna be contagious. Other people are gonna get that.
It's like
And
a,
your
it's like a
your work as
smile.
a yeah, yeah. And your work as a nurse, that's amazing. I mean, that I don't you're no longer engaged in that work right now, you said.
No, no. I developed COVID in 21 and had a total shutdown. I had bilateral pneumonia in both lungs and through a blood clot, actually a double blood clot. And
Oh,
my spirit pool and higher source is so amazing. They jumped in and they saved me. I stayed home. I'm a nurse. I wasn't going to go to the hospital. I don't suggest other people do that. But
right.
it certainly worked well for me. My
Wow.
spirits came down and said, we got you, but here's the thing, you're going to do our work.
Wow.
And I had
Wow.
like a split second, literally, to agree or disagree. And my husband was with me. My son had walked in, and my son was like, "We're calling 911." And I'm like, "Nobody's doing anything.
Mhm.
Leave me alone." Well, I thought that's what I was saying. I don't think I was really saying anything. But in my
Yeah.
head, I was making this very loud and clear. And all of a sudden, cigar smoke came up, and I breathed it in. And it's like, "You're ours. You're doing our work." And here I
Wow.
am.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It was
Beautiful.
absolutely beautiful and life changing, and would not change any of it, and realize how plugged into the matrix I was, for
Yeah.
59 years. I mean, I was that nurse. I was that job. I was not Julie. I was the job.
But that you couldn't be who you are now without that
No.
being informed and trained in that way, and that's what's so powerful, because there are a lot of people you can see kind of both sides. You have this opportunity of like, "This is how I was before," and you can relate and truly understand people that are earlier in their development
Oh,
spiritually,
absolutely.
because you
Because
lived that. I mean, that's amazing to me.
I was so living that. I was so plugged in. Yes, Michael, cigar smoke. Michael's going, cigar smoke. I'm initiated in Haitian. I have left all of these things, but I'm initiated in Haitian voodoo, African Ifa, and Caribbean Santeria.
Mm.
So I have been on a journey.
Yeah,
It's been a whole journey. And so, yes, cigar smoke is used by a lot of my spirits, and that's what came to me. Tobacco is a common thread in a lot of different spiritualities. It's
yeah.
cleansing. But
Now,
yeah,
unlike me, I was never formally trained in any religion, including Christianity. Like my
Mm.
parents never took us to do. I wasn't raised in a church, and I always tell people, my parents, predominantly, I say that is one of the greatest gifts for me that
Mhm.
I could ever ask for, because I I've always had this very, very, ever since I can remember, deep connection to, um, spirit is the word we could agree to use. I think it'll be the
Mhm,
easiest thing to
yeah.
say. Without the entrainment of any particular camp, and that access point of interaction, that feeling of closeness that I have, has only grown the older I get, and I feel, it's like this familiar, um, force around me, and it's how I operate in life. I mean, I don't look for parking without help, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, absolutely. Instant
and
magic for
yeah,
all
yeah,
space.
parking, exactly. And again, I can only speak from my limited, total, my singular experience, which is just who I am and how I was raised. But um, I I think I tend to shy away from formal, organ. I take a little bit of this and little. I tend to be the little quilting person. I'm taking the patchworks from these different things and putting
Sure.
them into how I live and how I align myself spiritually. And I do a similar thing with my music, which is kind of interesting. It's like I have these influences from the blues world, but also from Celtic music, Irish music, and from folk and Americana and rock. And um, I I don't have a one umbrella that I live underneath, and I was trained classically. So I take all of these different colors and I throw them on the palette, and I'm not sure, sometimes it's super messy. um,
But
but
that's the beauty of it.
but it's fun. It's enjoyable, and I feel like I am driving, in the driver's seat of this experience, in terms of I'm not expecting someone else to do that for me. I'm making my own horrible messes and my own great mistakes and my own, and I'm also discovering magic and magical people along the way at every turn
But
without
that
question.
is your path, and to me, that is so cool to not have that, um, predetermined, almost brainwashed mindset to be driven in a direction out of your control, to
Yeah,
be able to come in open and align with what vibes good with you and what doesn't,
yeah.
without having the influences of the guilt associated with so many different things that's out there.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I Were you raised in a specific way,
I
or
was raised Episcopal.
okay.
Was raised and married the first time around in an Episcopal church. My mom was Catholic. My dad was Baptist.
Mhm,
They
mhm.
married Methodist. They converted to Lutheran. They had me. They went Episcopal, and I had Jewish godparents.
Okay. Wow.
And before my dad passed, when I was 15, he was very much trying to find himself and realized there was far much more out there than
Mm,
what he had been taught,
mhm.
and had left the church. My mom held on to her Catholic guilt all
Yeah,
the way through,
yeah.
and I was raised with that. My children went to church, they were baptized, and then I was just like, do whatever the hell you want. Like, this is not. I got really tired, and I'm not speaking to Christians that are out there. I'm generalizing my own experiences, but it was very much older people fighting over who wore what to church and what pew you were going to sit in.
Oh my
And
god.
I'm just like, that is not resonating with me at all. This is not what it's all about. This is just crazy behavior with people that has nothing to do with honoring anything that is divine or
Yeah,
higher leveled This is not, not to be critical or rude, but Jesus don't give a fuck what you have on in church.
I mean,
Like,
right?
the fact that you walked in the door is a sacred moment,
Yeah, yeah,
and so
yeah,
that I left that way behind, and then trying to find myself, I ended up in all these weird places, but it was so inspiring and so educational for me to meet different people, because to step
yeah,
out of the box in my 50s and meet people from places and countries that I had never met before
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and commune with them was amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
On a
And
spirit level, not a
yes.
black, white, green, yellow, polka dot, male, female level, but a
Mhm.
real, you know, we're doing this in the name of spirit.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a phenomenal experience.
Ah, that's beautiful. And the fact that you had an open enough heart and mind uh, to trust in that path, in the journey of different paths, differing paths. I mean, that's very courageous. I
Thank you.
commend you for that.
Sometimes kind of scary, but you know what? If you, to me, and again, my experience, if you trust and you have faith in divine, you can't go wrong. We make messes. Oh hell, I've made some great
For
messes,
sure.
but they were beautiful messes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what a learning experience.
Yeah, and if you don't make the same exact mess twice, then that's
Right.
pretty good.
Right. But
Make
there's a
different
learning
kinds of
curve.
messes, so that there's an evolution happening,
Your spiritualism, though, comes through your music and the vibes. When did you start playing music?
Well, I started begging for a violin when I was 3, and, my mother tells me that I she took me and my sister to see the movie version of Fiddler on the Roof, and I stood up in the theater in the middle of the overture where Isaac Stern is in silhouette playing this very beautiful overture. It's an awesome musical if you haven't seen it,
It is
and
beautiful.
beautiful. And I pointed to the screen and said, "Mommy, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do." And I basically didn't stop bugging her about it. She thought it was maybe just a passing sort of thing, but I was insistent, and I actually started formally training when I was about 7. I had like a student teacher for about a year and a half, and then I moved into the teacher that would be my formal teacher for 10 years. And my training was classical. Um, and I loved the repertoire, but when I was at home dancing around and listening to records or putting on my dad's records or sneaking my sister's records or listening to the radio, it was rarely classical music. It was, funk and, you know, pop music and rock music. And I loved musical theater. I was also studying dance. So I had, on the one hand, this very rigid form of technique driven repertoire, which was the classical stuff, which
Yes.
was great for learning music theory, for learning just physically a command of the instrument. That's very effective. So, but on the other hand, it wasn't like the fun thing for me. The fun thing
No.
was theater and dancing and all kinds of music. And I remember one of the things that my teacher would tell me repeatedly at lessons is, "You move around too much. You got to stand still."
Oh,
Because I would
no.
feel the music, and here's this little kid like I'm into it, and she's like, "You're moving around too much." I was a lot, I think. So fast forward to I go to college at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor as a musical theater major. I auditioned as a vocal principal, so it was music, it was voice and dance and acting combined into like a fine arts program that's one of the best programs in the country. And I moved to Chicago. I put my violin aside because I wanted to, it just wasn't expressive of what was coming through me. And I didn't really have the language to articulate that. It was just strictly based on how I felt, what things moved me, what was I excited about, you know? So I did just a little bit of theater in Chicago, nothing significant, you know, and a little bit of commercial work. And then some theater friends of mine started a band, and they're like, "You play violin? We didn't even know that part of you because when I moved to Chicago initially, I wasn't playing for people." And I dusted it back off and had this really free environment of friends that were just we just made this band together, and I dedicated myself at that point to relearning the instrument and really to do it with a conscious focus on I want to create my own sound. I want to play music that's exciting to me. I want to learn how to improvise and not read written music. It was kind of a big agenda, but but I was passionate about it, and it felt like a calling. It just felt like such an insistent thing, and that's what I did, and it ended up changing the course of my life. And I ended up becoming a musician, and through another twist of fate, I met a wonderful blues artist by the name of Otis Taylor, who happened to see me doing my thing in a bar and recruited me for his band. And I toured with him for the next 9.5 years. And that immersed me into blues music, blues culture, the incredible artists that populate that genre, and the incredible art that they're making in it. And it again made me relearn and rethink my instrument through a completely different voice.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so that's kind of brings me to now where I still have my own music. I'm a singer-songwriter as well. And I actually have a record that's going to be coming out in the spring. That's pretty much done, and I'll send you
Yay!
a copy. I would love for you to hear.
Oh, oh.
Um,
You have a fan on Jim Diddy. He's one of my
oh,
shaman friends,
oh,
and he makes his own drums and does cleansings and
hey
energy work with
Jim.
me. And he said that's where I became familiar with Anne. So
Oh, how
he's on. He's like,
great.
hi.
Oh, yay. It's such a you know, when you start hanging out and talking to musicians, it's this really kind of small circle between
It
the
is.
fans and the artists, and I'm grateful, so so grateful that I landed where I am because it's given me a whole voice musically that I never could have dreamed. You know, I'm really excited. So I play in a couple of different projects, including my own, but with the release of my new record, I'm hoping to move my stuff to the forefront next year when I get it out. But Halo Rider, the clip that you saw earlier, is my project with Marcus James that I mentioned. I tour with a band called Cracker. They're an indie rock band from the '90s. I don't do all of their shows, but I've been picking up more and more of their shows lately. They're great guys. Um, there is an artist by the name of JP Soares, who is a blues guitar player based in Florida. And I tour with them and do a bunch of dates with them every year. So I've got all these little different projects that all support each other. And I am just so lucky to do what I love and love what I do and play with incredible artists that continually inspire me and ignite me.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. For
Thank
people who
you.
don't know, being trained classical is so, I hate to say boxed in, but
Say
it is a very rigid training.
it.
And I was trained classically for 18, almost 20 years on the piano and
You
left it
know.
twice because I wanted to chord.
Yeah.
Seriously, I wanted to chord. I got blues and jazz was
Yes.
just amazing to me. I was a bandy. I was first chair flute.
Wow.
Like I did a lot of things like that growing up and wanted to play drums. And of course, back then, women can't play drums. You are a female, you shouldn't play drums. So I was raised in that upbringing. So of course, I gravitated towards the flute because that's what girls can play. Girls can play flute. But blues, there's to be able to play by ear or to be able to intuitively just jam what's in your heart.
That's right. Improvising,
Improvision,
improvisation.
yes. And I love to be able to just sit down and I will still walk by a piano and just bang shit out. Like, oh
Yes.
my God, that's in my heart. It may not sound great, but to be able to step out and actually break that box down to
Yes.
me is so inspiring because it really is hard once you're trained one way to think in terms of another way.
Yeah, I mean, what I did was once I started playing, around with my friends in the band that we made, I made a pact with myself to no longer look at written music, to only learn new music by ear, and to emulate a lot, try to comp the parts of other instruments in music that were, like I would listen to a song that had no violin in it and comp the guitar line and learn that solo on my violin what the guy was or woman was playing on guitar. And and it was just an exercise that I did, and that very quickly started to grow because I believe that it's like a muscle kind of thing. There's a
Mhm.
brain muscle for improvisation.
There
and
is.
um and when you practice it, it grows and it gets stronger, you know. It's something like intuition, and it's akin to intuition, which is what you were getting at earlier, and I like that comparison, because in order to be an intuitive person, which you are, I can't claim that I have any gifts of substance in that
Oh,
area.
no, no, you do with your music. That's how that you articulate that well through your music.
But in your work, there's an opening up, which is where, meditation certainly is a helpful tool to learn how to um, open yourself to a space where you can channel information. Whether that information is a vibrational message from uh, a, a, a from the other side, or uh, a song you've never heard before, and you're gonna have to just make up, which is I do a lot of this, a part on the spot
Mhm.
that just fits in with that. It's like you learn to open this part of your hearing, receiving, um, is if that makes sense to you. And I think it's the same tool that we're both using in different ways. And a painter would do the same thing. They
Sure.
would they would take their palette and just know something's coming through, and you want to be open and to be really a channel, a conduit
It's a
for
vibrational wave. It's almost like
yeah,
surfing, like you catch a
yes,
vibrational wave and you just go with it.
totally,
Your way is
exactly,
through the music, my way is through auditory or tactile spirit,
yes,
but it's the same thing. It's the movement of that energy through and wave form and we catch it and we go with it.
exactly. And when you go with it, you gain more trust in it, and that strengthens the muscle. So it's definitely a circular building sort of practice. And it's a practice. You're never done. We're never done.
Oh no.
That's the beautiful thing.
Baby steps. And it seems like, I think sometimes I feel like, okay, I've maxed out. And then something comes and it's like, well, shit, now I got to change everything because that's not doing it anymore.
Yeah,
It's not meeting what I have up here, or
yeah.
it's not meeting my own expectations, or I thought that was as high up as I could get, but wow, that's like the basement stair. Now I know I can
Yeah,
go like in your music, I'm sure is the same way for you.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And again, it's it's so hard to put language around that process. Like, did you, when you started exploring your gifts and you made this, this giant shift in your life, which was
Mhm.
kind of forced onto you by the circumstances of illness, which is so often how things go. Our bodies
Yes.
are like, okay, this is the only way I'm going to stop you. Lay you on your ass to figure this out.
Oh shit. Well, if we
Um,
don't close the door, somebody's going to close it for us.
I know. So
Spirit
when
has
you
a
were
way.
when you were making that transition, did you have a method? Like my method was like, I'm not going to read music. I'm going to listen to stuff by ear. I'm going to give myself assignments of I'm going to learn this thing, So did you set out like a lesson plan for yourself of
No,
how to strengthen your
it
gift?
kind of moved that way. I don't, yeah, I had never thought of that, but I bone read. So not physical bones, but I have the trinket, the hoodoo bone kit, and I read
Oh,
bones. I'm an
girl,
intuitive,
I got to make an appointment with you.
I'm an intuitive tarot reader, but I come from the Midwest and in Missouri, especially, a lot of people who read bones, I mean, who read tarot, read by the little book that's in the card deck.
Yeah.
And so when I lay out cards, I'm like, the pictures in the spirit move me. I have to connect with the deck. So
Mhm.
the bones spoke to me and nobody around did that. So they talked to me and I didn't run up against that criticism of you're not reading them correctly.
Right,
So I
right.
didn't have that block to begin with, but didn't read for people very often. I would go to shows every now and then. I would do a weekend gig. Um, and I did paranormal investigations. When I got sick and I finally got well enough that I could travel and I could breathe, which took me over a year just to be able to breathe and go places. And I'm not talking like flight travel, I'm talking about just a 3 hour jaunt to go
Oh,
someplace in a car
oh
because
my
we would stop and
God.
I didn't have the breath support. Like I lost my ability to breathe. I would walk up the stairs from letting the dogs out and I'd be like, fuck.
Oh,
I'm blue and my alarm's going off on my iWatch going, you're
oh
at
my
68%.
God.
And,
I'm
it was a whole
so
thing.
sorry.
But I started with that, and then that gave me encouragement, and I got nervous. But somehow, this reassuring spirit kept saying, just keep doing this. You're going to get used to it. And the unknown, it doesn't frighten me, but I get anxiety sometimes that it's going to leave me. Like, what happens if you kind of get up on stage and you forget your shit? Like I,
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 I must say, I don't have that fear. Like, I don't have, I think that one really exciting thing about growing older and developing as an artist for me is my relationship to anxiety has changed quite a
mhm,
bit. Um, because I think I have more confidence in my ability to navigate all the mistakes I'm going to make.
yeah.
As opposed to, if I make a mistake, it's the end of the world, a little,
Oh, absolutely.
because that pulls you out of the moment and you can only be authentic with the kind of work that we're talking about when you are
Mhm.
present. Because as soon as you go, I played that, I shouldn't have done that, like I might do that after on the way home and go, I should have done this or I could have done that. But
Mhm.
in the moment of you're in the river and you're paddling downstream and you hit a rock and you just have to navigate around it and you keep going. Like it's not a you
And
have
not
to
even be afraid to say, "Oh, shit." I
you,
recognize that because
yeah,
this
you just
age
gotta
kind of
trust that you're bigger than your mistakes.
or you do
And
something and you screw it up, and now I can just go, "Wow, that
yeah,
was kind of fucked up."
totally.
And I'll tell my clients, "Oh, let's just stop a second. That was like, I don't know where that came from. Let me have just a second to regroup. That
Yeah,
was kind of funny and messed up at the same time."
right,
And
right.
we can laugh. And then we just kind of like, okay, all seriousness, let's just
Yes,
take a breath and reset. And at
right.
60, I could do that. At
Yeah,
20, I would have been mortified.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that would have stopped everything.
Right.
But now I'm just like, whoa, hold the press. That was kind of amazing and messed up all at once. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully that's what happens to all of us. We're able to forgive ourselves more quickly.
People
And
need to learn grace.
yeah.
We have everybody out there has so much grace with other people.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't have it for
With
themselves.
themselves. Yeah, and part of, talking about enculturation and how, culture, molds and shapes and sculpts us to a certain degree, um, that's that striving for perfectionism. It's something that is, unattainable, and it's sad seeing how much time can be wasted spinning the wheels around this track that somebody else designed, and you're not even supposed to be riding around it. That doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's important to recognize as quickly as you can how limited our time is. Uh,
It is.
it's certainly finite, and that limit, maybe we'll have many, many, many healthy years, but no one is guaranteed anything.
No.
And when we're
Love hard,
present,
play hard,
exactly,
and live in the moment.
as
I mean,
much as possible. And that's what art helps us do. That's what being connected in a conscious way with spiritual development
yes,
in its purest form, in my opinion. That's what that is about. It's an
mhm,
art as well.
it is. And I know more than a lot of people, time is very limited, and we don't know how long we have.
Yeah.
And taking the time to follow that which we love and not let the man drag us down or keep us down,
Yes.
because because we can be replaced on our jobs in 24 hours of us leaving,
Right. Right.
and will be.
Yeah.
So follow your heart
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
follow your consciousness and follow the light and the love. To me, is the most beautiful thing.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that, we can do that within situations that aren't optimal. I think we can work a job that isn't our fantasy job. I think I could be waiting tables and also realizing that every person that is placed before me, I might have this deeper connection with.
Oh,
They
yes.
might lift me, like even in our mundane moments. I think, a lot of new age spirituality doesn't separate itself as much as I would like from traditional religions, in that there's this goal of attaining some kind of perfect sense of something that to me isn't really what the human experience is about. The constant, like, we're still trying to be better, we're still not good enough, we're still, I'm trying to work with my shadow to get rid of the shadow work and get rid of the shadow, get rid of the bad thing that makes us feel bad. And it's like, we are all of the things, and the human experience is not just one thing. It's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything in
Absolutely.
between, and to live with as much presence in all of that, and knowing that all of it will pass. When you're in the great, everything is perfect day, awesome. Tomorrow's a new day. There's a chance for
Mhm.
things to not be perfect. And
Well, and embracing that,
yes, exactly my
embracing the
point.
dark, embracing the bad things, as well as, I hate using good and bad. Those are
Me
terms that
too.
I use, but I hate them. I always say, like, those little Facebook memes where the chick is sitting on the doorstep with her little demon that's her shadow
Yes,
self, and
yes.
she's got her arm around him, and they've got a bottle in between them, and they're smoking a cigarette, and she's like, "Tell me about your day." I'm like, you know, you can eradicate the bad areas of your life, or you can embrace them, work on them,
Yeah.
but it takes the positive and the negative. There's a balance
Absolutely.
in
Yeah.
embracing
Yeah.
the bad so that you recognize the good, but understanding that doesn't make you bad. My
Yes.
dark side is what has kept me alive.
Right.
That's my survival mode.
That's right.
I'm
That's
not going to
right.
get rid of my shadows. I'm going to have a shot of whiskey with them and a good cigar and say, like, how can we meet in between to make today successful?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And
And,
looking at that as an agent of change as well.
mhm,
The things that are challenging are ultimately the things that will free us in
absolutely. That's,
unbelievable ways.
again, beautiful. Yeah.
What you mentioned your work with cleansing spaces. Like, so how do you look at energy cleaning and as part of uh your life practice,
To me, energy is neither positive or negative.
Yeah,
It's energy. It is free. It is abundant. It's never ending. So
exactly.
we as humans, by our thoughts and by our words, create an energy path or an energy flow that makes things either positive or negative.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a huge anime fan, and my viewers know this because I'm always talking about anime shows. And there's a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen, and some of these shows get into the demons, the curses that we project through our words and our thoughts about ourselves as well as others create the monsters in our environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to go in and negative can't live in a loving, peaceful environment.
Mhm.
It can't. It doesn't want that. Negative feeds negative and it builds these dark things that sometimes are just very small things that need hugs and need nourishing.
Right. Right.
So going in, understanding, and not being offended by the energy in an environment, not being scared of an energy in an environment, but
Mhm.
knowing that positive is always going to outweigh the negative, and basically commanding the positive to take over the negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all up here. So if I go in and I think, oh my gosh, this is a horrible place and it's going to remain horrible, then horrible's where it's going to remain. But if I
Yeah.
bring in the light and I call in the light, the dark's going to go away.
Right.
It's
Right.
not that it goes away, the energy just
It
changes to,
shifts.
it shifts
Exactly.
because then
Yeah.
it becomes blessed and positive and abundant and healthy.
And you allow for that change. What you're doing is it's like it's alchemy, really. I
It
love
is,
that.
it's
This
energy
is what
alchemy. Absolutely.
exactly. And it's similar again, the parallel between that and what I do with music,
Vibrate, and,
creating.
and everything is vibration.
Yes.
Everything. I mean, for people who don't get that, this cup is vibration. It's
Yeah,
not a living thing, but it still has a vibration.
exactly.
And the water in it
Exactly.
is living and it has a vibration.
Right.
And the
Right.
music is healing and vibration.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Absolutely. Oh, what a fascinating life you have.
Well, I'm looking at you going, wow, I'm just like so amazed. Do you, your music, your tone, do you get the stories of people that you've changed lives with your music?
I do, and it's humbling, and it's enormously gratifying because I feel when I connect with somebody in a positive way, even if it's like just the littlest thing, doesn't have to be like a huge life changing thing, but someone that like I last night I had a show and a person that's been a fan of mine for years, like since I was really getting going in bar bands and stuff, came to the show and I hadn't seen him in a while. And he came up to me during the break and he's started to cry. And he said, "There's just something that I feel with your music that I don't in any other way. And this isn't like a weepy kind of dude. It's kind of, he's a regular dude,
Mhm.
Midwestern, so not particularly emotional or whatever. And I, and I connected with him and I thanked him, and that really stuck with me. Like, what a gift that he gave me in acknowledging that I could lift him in a way that touched him emotionally. And
Mhm.
a similar thing happened with a young woman at a festival in Duluth, Minnesota, a couple of weeks ago, and she was a younger woman. I think she was probably in her early 30s, and she used to play violin, and then out of the blue had a grand mal seizure and had to learn how to do everything again. And she decided she wanted to pick up the violin again, and she is now walking and talking fine, but she was at a point where it was hard for her to be really amazing in a previous life, have this life event happen, and then she kind of had to relearn that at the same time, that was the thing that was healing her. So she
Mhm.
came up to the merch table afterwards, and she was a beautiful young black woman, and she just started crying and apologizing and then told me her story. I'm like, please don't apologize. You
Oh
you were
no.
you were amazing. I see nothing but she was just radiant and so grateful to be on her journey with the intention and taking nothing for granted. Not that, we take things for granted, but she felt like being on the other side of recovering from like learning how to talk and walk
Oh
again
my
in your
gosh.
early 30s, and let alone picking up the violin again and playing and
What a
being
strong woman.
exactly.
And to
And
share that story with such, oh my
it was
gosh.
it was medicine for me. It was so
Yes.
inspiring. So I'm lucky that in my work there are people that seem to resonate with what I do, and give me the grace to receive their spirit, because it's a reciprocal thing.
I was just going to say it's a two-way street. It
Yeah,
is, for those of us that work on the vibration, and music is every bit more so, I believe, healing than what I do, because music goes in a back door for real. People
yeah,
don't realize, like, they're walking down the street, they've got their headset on, they're jogging, they're in the car. We spend so many hours a day commuting or traveling or,
right.
whatever. House people, people that stay at home and they work at home, they've got music going on in the background. Music enters through a very subtle channel
Yeah,
oftentimes. Now there's those of us that play certain tracks to become aware, and we're aware while we're playing those tracks.
right, right.
But you can be happy, glad, sad, mad, anxious, and turn on your channel on your music, your playlist, not asking for healing, but
Right.
just background. And
Yeah,
it comes in and it alters those brain waves.
it does. And I think you don't have to, but when you're creating music with that intention
Mhm.
of of um healing as sort of being the underlying thing beneath it, hopefully that translates as well, that is felt and received, for the highest good.
Always the highest good. Yes. The intentions are so, so, so important.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you keep yourself going night after night, playing shows and traveling and doing what you do? Because there's a lot of musicians out there who are not healthy about it. They're not grounded.
Yeah, it's not
Hearts.
well,
Bless their hearts.
it's not easy, but for me, in order to work, I need to have some consistency of routine, and you can create that anywhere. Like, we've got this flower that I got a couple of years ago. It's a tiny little yellow flower, and the leaves on it are these spiky green leaves, and it grows as a clumping thing, like a mound. And I put it in this planter a couple of years ago, and it volunteered and came back. I thought it was just an annual because it was from one of those, early spring plant sale things, but it seeds itself and comes back. Well, it comes back again and again, and we're finding these things all over the property now. And
Oh,
there's a
nice.
whole hedge of them in the crack of our driveway that we protected. Our neighbors are like, they're absolutely insane. They're growing weeds in the, but it's just like the spirit of blooming where you're planted, of being able to take who you are, and you could be fine in that fancy little planter with the cute little things around it, or you could be in that crack in the sidewalk. You're still that flower, you still got to bloom. And so with touring and not having the ultimate, oh, I've got my cushy bed every night, my lavender eye mask, it's like none of that. It's sometimes a beautiful place, sometimes a not beautiful place, sometimes, oh, I'm only going to get 3 hours of sleep before I got to get up and get the flight to go to the other place and whatever. But those, all of that, it's just a means to the end, which is getting to play for people, getting to make music with people that you really dig, getting to find out, what am I going to play tonight? I have no idea. It's going to be a new journey. It's going to be a new
Oh,
thing
wow.
to discover. Like that is so exciting. And the routine stuff, I try to build in a little bit, like, I have a certain green tea that I really like drinking, that I'll make sure that I always have that with me, so I can have that every morning. And
Mhm.
a certain essential oils that I'll put in the
Oh my
room.
gosh.
I have a little traveling. I'm right near my violin case right now. I should let my violin say hi to everybody.
Beautiful.
In my case, I have like a traveling altar. I won't get it out now, but it's got certain crystals, and it's got a little brass bell. And so when I go into a new room and I don't know what has who or what state of mind has been in the room, I walk around the room and I ring the bell and I ask that the spirit clear any energy that isn't going to be supportive of my most restful feelings and my highest good and my most restorative place. Because your hotel room, or the space you're staying, is like, that's your little
That's your home.
restoration nest.
I
And
call it home. Wherever I go, I call it home.
exactly, make
Because
your
home is where your
tea,
heart
drink
is.
it,
So,
totally. So that is, yes, physically it can be, a little bit disconcerting to have to navigate time zones and different situations, but you kind of, I try to bring that consistency of, I'm the flower blooming in the crack in the driveway. I'm still the flower. And all I need to do is make sure I have the most basic thing, that, I get whatever sleep I can. I try to meditate as regularly as I can. I have a little workout routine that I can do in a tiny little space, so I don't need a bunch of equipment, or whatever, so I
mhm.
can always ground myself into my body. You can always breathe,
Yes. Oh my
which
gosh.
doesn't take equipment. And so it's those kinds of reminders of conscious self-care that allow me to. And I'm a very physical performer, so I couldn't last very long while being debaucherous and destroying my body.
Well,
I
and I love that part about you too is, for those of you that have not seen Anne play, she dances while she plays, which to me, okay, I have a running joke with my friends. I cannot run and shoot fireballs at the same time in a video game. I have no hand-eye coordination whatsoever. I often can't keep my hands going at the same time. I can dance, but I could not play an instrument and dance at the same time. That would be horrific and explosively hilarious at the same time. I mean, people would cry hard because it was so bad and so funny. But you move and sing and play and do all of these things at once.
I do.
That's crazy.
I don't really think about it. It is really weird, I think. I don't know if that's normal, but I think that, I have a couple of instruments, and my first one is my body, and the second one is my violin. And my body I've always been very connected to it, and it's why I love dancing. Why when I was a kid I loved to dance because I can hear I can hear music that motivates me, and I can't not move to it. Like
Right?
it's part of how I move the energy through, and
I
how
dance with
I
strangers in the aisles of grocery stores. This
yes!
is so funny
I
because,
love
they
that.
always play that weird cheesy music, right?
Yes, yes.
And I think I was at I don't think I can say it on air, but I was at a sports store where you buy like sports equipment and gym clothes and stuff like that.
Nice.
And I was with my son and my grandson, and I was just I was goofing off with my grandson because I love to embarrass him. He's 11, and he's at that age where he turns red and he's like, "Oh, geez, grandma." So like I was like boogieing down, and I was just like singing and dancing, and this guy came down the aisle, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" So we started dancing.
Yay!
And
I
we're just
love
dancing
that.
in the aisle, and we're like doing the two-step down. Never met the man before. Best time. I mean, it was so.
Love it. I love
And
that
my
so
and my
much.
son goes, "Did you know him?" And I'm like, "No."
Oh.
Apparently, we're a lot alike though, because
Yeah, exactly,
you got to
exactly.
move. You got to move. You can't be afraid in life to me to jump in and
No.
do those things because it's in that moment that food and dance and music, those are like neutral grounds.
Yeah.
You
They
meet
really are.
people in those things.
You do, you do,
Anthony Bourdain said, "Drink the beer,
yeah, yeah,
taste the wine, eat the food."
yeah. I mean, that's part of the joy of being in the body
Yes,
is experiencing all aspects of pleasure and joy through these instruments of ours, through our bodies, looking at the beautiful art and smelling the bread baking and having an amazing glass of cup of tea or whatever the tactile thing is. That's an important part uh, of our experience, and we have to celebrate our bodies, all of them, in all of their diversity and in all phases of their development. Meet yourself where you are in your body,
absolutely.
and find joy and pleasure in that. And I know that's not easy for people. I mean, there's people that live with chronic pain. There's people that live with sickness, and so I don't want to discount or be Pollyanna-ish about embrace your body, and but I really do mean that in a real way, like in the ways that you can find joy in a thing. I was having a conversation with the woman who twists my dreads, actually, who started my
Mhm.
dreadlocks years and years ago, and I saw her a couple of days ago, and she lives with chronic pain. And she was describing to me there's a certain point when she wakes up in the morning before she's aware that she's in her body, that she is pain free. And it's a, a tiny, tiny part of her day. And then all of a sudden, she comes into complete awareness and she's back in her body. And what she told me was that she's grateful for that little glimpse because it changes the color of the rest of her day and makes her much more grateful for little things throughout the day that bring her joy and a sense of pleasure.
Absolutely.
A bowl of lemons on her kitchen table in a really pretty old bowl that she got from her grandma.
Hmm.
You know, the tree outside of their window, watching it change throughout the season. You know, so uh, I just wanted to impart that I don't think everything is all lightness and butterflies and
No,
flowers,
and
nor
it is
should
not.
it be. It's
It
not
is
the
not.
point of it, but the point is truly to journey with courage, to seek beauty, community, and a sense of like expansion throughout the way, which will always challenge us and always be scary to a certain extent. But when you keep moving through those things, I think we're inevitably gifted with greater awareness.
Yes. Yes. And finding that one thing each day, and you said this, that one moment, and all it takes is a second or two.
Exactly.
You can be completely down and somebody smiles, or a squirrel runs by, or it's the little things for me, like a
Yeah.
squirrel runs by with one of my tomatoes from my garden, and I'm like, yeah, that was my tomato, but that tomato was bigger than that squirrel. Like, that was a great moment. That's so awesome. Look at you go, little guy, go, like, don't drop it. It's the little things that sometimes help make us through the day. They get
Yeah.
us through the day. And if you live in the present, you will see those little moments.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the glimmer, that's the lighter that kind of goes
Yeah.
click for that second. And finding that bind or bond and that moment with relationships with others.
Yeah.
You go to the grocery. I hate Walmart. I'm just going to say it out there. Like, I hate Walmart. But you go to Walmart and you smile and you say something to somebody like, oh my gosh, beautiful hair. I love your
Yeah.
style. Great shoes. What a smile. You smell so good. That's creepy, but I've said that to people. Oh my
I
gosh,
have
you smell
too.
amazing, right?
I have too.
And you don't know whose day you just made by one little comment that
Yeah.
you took the time to say.
Yes. So important. So important.
Those connections are human connections.
Exactly.
And you make those every day through your music. And what a vessel you are for spirit and divine
Oh,
work and energy to come through. That's all we all are,
yeah.
is vessels. And we can use them for anything we choose to use them for.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But what you give is such a gift. And please, everybody, the link has been put up in the chat. Please,
Oh,
please,
great.
please,
Thank
like,
you.
take the time to go onto the chat and see what's up, and let people listen, to have your family listen. It's amazing music and it's
Ah,
amazing energy. And
thank you. Thank you
my gosh,
so,
I
so
thank you
much.
so much for being on my show. What an
I'm
inspiration.
honored. I'm so honored. I want to go have a glass of wine with you now.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's do it. Let's do it. Do you come to Missouri?
Uh, I I don't remember the last time I was there, so not often, but I will absolutely where are you in Missouri?
I'm in Jefferson City. My producers are like in the Kansas City side, but I
Okay.
have people all over. We travel. So if you're in
Okay.
Chicago, we're going to come see you.
All right.
Because
Awesome. Yeah.
I love, this is just, yes.
Well, I'm truly honored that you plucked me out of the interwebs.
And I said,
That
this
you
is
found
me.
me.
Don't ever think nothing is going to happen. For the folks out there that are doubters, I am always this, I am really working on it. Like, my gifts amaze me. Like, it's not, I'm a vessel and my spirits are so cool. Like, they are so fucking cool. And
Yeah.
they just have got me. And I should know they have me. But I reach out and I'm like, this lady is so big. She is not going to, like, who am
Oh,
I? Like, and then you said yes. And I'm like, okay, wow, this is
oh,
cool. And
oh.
just the conversations back and forth it's just been tremendous.
I've mutual. I'm so honored to be a part of this conversation, to be in your energy for this past hour. It's been so lovely, and
Oh, thank you.
um, I will send you an advance copy of my record. I'd love to have your ears only on it.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. And I have a beautiful record player in my studio.
Oh
That's the one
wow.
thing I moved into my sacred space for my work was a record player
Oh, I
because I
love
have
it.
two
I'm
shelves of
making
albums.
I
And I'm
will be
like,
making vinyl. I'm doing a limited run of vinyl on these, which won't again be out till the spring. So I will make sure to sign a copy and send
Oh,
you
I
a
would love
little
that so
vinyl.
much. No, I love to kick back with a bottle of wine and listen to good music and just,
Beautiful, beautiful.
oh,
Oh,
energy's beautiful.
yay!
Spiritual speakeasy. All spirits are served.
Thanks to everyone that was joining in on the chat and hanging
Thank
out
you
with us
guys.
tonight. I'm grateful to everybody, really am.
Thank you for your beautiful spirit and blessing us.
Right back at you, sister.
Ah, okay. Take us down and I'll talk to you backstage. And I love you guys and see y'all next Sunday.
Bye,
Jim, who's been
everyone.
on the comments, Jim's going to be on. Talk to y'all later. Night.